The 2025-2026 Indiana men's basketball schedule has been released, and my goodness, it might just be the hardest in the country.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. This is a bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I know we've talked a lot of football, but we've got some basketball news as Indiana and the Big Ten announced the full men's basketball schedule yesterday, and this is our reaction. It's going to be tough sledding for Darian Devries in year one in Bloomington. There's really just no other way to say it because we know what the non-conference slate looks like, right? You have a couple of exhibition games and you're playing Alabama A&M and Lindenwood, and you have Kansas State coming to Assembly Hall. We also know about the game against Marquette in Chicago, the game against Louisville in Indianapolis, and the true road game inside of Rupp Arena when you take on the Kentucky Wildcats. But you now know where all your Big Ten games are sitting, and this is really, really difficult. Again, your non-conference schedule quickly, your season opener on November 5th against Alabama A&M. You then go and play Marquette in Chicago, home for Milwaukee and Incarnate Word, Lindenwood, Kansas State, Bethune-Cookman. Then your first Big Ten game of the season. And as we've seen, especially since expansion, the Big Ten has put two games before the rest of the Big Ten schedule. They kind of sprinkle them around in your non-conference schedule. After 5 straight games at home, the Hoosiers have their first true road test of the season when they go on the road to Minnesota on December 3rd. I don't think that's all that bad. You're a better team than Minnesota. You're a better program than Minnesota. May not have acted like it in recent years, but you are, and you should win that game. You then immediately go and play Louisville in that neutral site game, one that I think is truly exciting. I think it is one that Indiana will get up for, have an opportunity to beat a solid team in Louisville, and you never know what's going to happen on December 6th. You then return home for your second Big Ten game of the year against the Penn State and Nittany Lions. Overall, in the history of Indiana basketball, we never would have sweat a game like this, but recent memory has not been too kind. I think it's a new era of Indiana basketball, and I think you'll be just fine. You then go on the road to Kentucky, so that's a tough 4-game stretch right there. At Minnesota, home for Louisville, at Minnesota, neutral site for Louisville, home for Penn State, and at Kentucky. That's no easy stretch right there that the Hoosiers are going to have to go through before you return home for Chicago State and Siena before your true Big Ten play stretch begins. And so that's what stands out to me immediately is we already knew about the Marquette game and we knew about Louisville and Kentucky, but that 4-game stretch of at Minnesota, home for Louisville, at Minnesota, neutral site against Louisville, got to get that through my brain, home for Penn State, and at Kentucky, you're looking for 2-2 there, I think. I mean, maybe that's 2-0 in the Big Ten and trying to win one of those of Louisville or Kentucky, maybe 3-1 in that stretch, depending on how your first several games go. But that's what stands out to me in October, November, and December, really November and December when the actual season begins. Here's what it looks like from January and on, okay? Home for Washington, at Maryland, home for Nebraska, and at Michigan State. Okay, not too bad. Home for Washington, at Maryland, and home for Nebraska. Those next 3 games, the restart, if you will, those are all winnable games for the Indiana Hoosiers. You should be more talented than them. You'll have a better coach than them. You should win those games. But folks, this is where you're really going to get tested here. This is where the Hoosiers are going to learn a lot about themselves, and we're going to learn a lot about them over the next month after this. Starting on January 13th, Indiana goes to Michigan State, back home for Iowa, at Michigan, at Rutgers, home for Purdue. You then go out west to take on UCLA. You take on USC. You go back home for Wisconsin, Oregon, before going back out on the road at Illinois and at Purdue. Let me say that stretch again because that is brutal. The fact that Indiana has to do this between January 13th and February 20th. I don't know if there's a tougher stretch in conference play in all of college basketball. At Michigan State, home for Iowa, at Michigan, at Rutgers, home for Purdue, at UCLA, at USC, home for Wisconsin, home for Oregon, and then back-to-back road games at Illinois and at Purdue. I don't know what Indiana did to make the Big Ten upset, but you got handed a gauntlet right there if you're Darian Devries in year one. You wrap up with a much easier stretch. Home for Northwestern, Michigan State, and Minnesota, and then you go on the road to Ohio State. What I notice here is in Big Ten play, you don't have back-to-back home Big Ten games until early February, until February 7th and February 9th against Wisconsin and Oregon. The backstretch of that schedule, again, Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota at home, and on the road at Ohio State, depending on how this team looks, I say that should be a 4-0 stretch. I really do. Your road games in the Big Ten, at Minnesota, at Maryland, at Michigan State, Michigan, Rutgers, UCLA, USC, Illinois, Purdue, and Ohio State. You should be better than Minnesota. You should be better than Maryland, who is a new team coached by Buzz Williams, so they'll be talented. You should be better than Rutgers. You should be better than USC. And you should be better than Ohio State. I'm giving you those 5 that you're at least better than. I'm not ready to say that you're better than Michigan State or Michigan or UCLA or Illinois or Purdue. I'm not willing to give us that just yet. But some big home games inside of Assembly Hall in terms of Big Ten play, right? You have Washington, which could be fun. Iowa comes here. Of course, Purdue will play here. We'll play there as well. Wisconsin and Oregon are big games inside of Assembly Hall. And then Michigan State once more in Simon Scott as well. One thing that does stand out to me in terms of the days of the week that these games are on, I'm sure you've probably seen this by now, Indiana and Purdue don't play on a weekend. Both games in West Lafayette and in Bloomington are both in the middle of the week. That's criminal. Criminal. It's a Tuesday night and a Friday night. That's ridiculous. That is a major fail by the Big Ten. But of course, they just do what they want to do and they don't care about what actually matters and what would make the most sense. That would make too much sense, right? I just don't see how there's a tougher Big Ten schedule in the country, or at least in the conference, or a tougher conference schedule in the country, man. That's ruthless. But would you want it any other way? In year one for Darian Devries and this Indiana team, would you want it any other way? We continue this conversation right after this here on this bonus episode of Locked on Hoosiers. Today's bonus episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It really is your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. This bonus episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by Wayfair. The weather's cooling down. The days are, well, they're getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier. And when it comes to cozifying your space this fall, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your favorite latte at home. Wayfair has literally anything you want and everything you need. Check them out on their website. You can scroll for hours on your phone, on your laptop, on your PC. Hey, maybe you're at work and you need something to do. Get on Wayfair. You're going to find something that you love. I guarantee it. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates. From comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor, you'll find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. They are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And if you're looking for some of those places, or maybe you're trying to think, who's a part of Square? Who can I count on and go support that would help them out? What about Owen Valley Winery? If you're into that sort of thing, go check them out. How about Bloomington Bagel Company? You know, you want one of those for breakfast on game day, or maybe even the Atlas Ballroom to get out and get after it. Cedar Hill Catering is also a part of that as well, if you're looking for some game day stuff too. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on-college to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. All right, wrapping up here quickly on this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Wanted to get something out there for you, talking about this Indiana basketball schedule. And again, there are some really exciting stretches here. I love Marquette being the second game of the season. We kind of knew what the non-con slate would look like. I love that being the second game of the season. You're going to get tested, and you're going to get tested early. You have Kansas State at home. I think that's a fun opportunity in the midst of 5 straight home games from November 12th to November 29th. A 4-game stretch that I think will learn a lot about this team and really see what the talent looks like, what the rotation looks like, what the scoring and the defense looks like, and also a little bit of the coaching style from Darian Devries too. At Minnesota, neutral site for Louisville, home for Penn State, and at Kentucky between December 3rd and December 13th. You get like 12 days off around the Christmas holiday, so that'll be nice. Before you play Washington on January 4th. Home games, again, in conference play include Penn State, Washington, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Oregon, Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota. Good games, not great. Purdue's the best. Wisconsin probably after that, and Iowa is in that mix as well. But, man, we're going to have to take this show on the road and play some really hostile environments at Minnesota, at Maryland, at Michigan State, Michigan, Rutgers, UCLA, USC, Illinois, Purdue, Ohio State. I mean, I'm sticking to it. Until I can dive deeper into some of these other schedules, Indiana may have the toughest conference schedule in all of college basketball. So it's not going to be easy for Darian Devries in year one, but it will be fun. And we're going to talk so much more about it coming up on the show next week. I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Reminder, we'll have a live show for you tomorrow night after Indiana football and Illinois. We're also going to have another bonus episode go live for you first thing tomorrow morning. So be sure you check that out as well by following us, subscribing to us, doing everything you can to help support the show. Okay, we are back tomorrow for a bonus episode and a live show tomorrow night, and then a normal show on Monday, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.